actually met live, right? Wait, you are that person.
Also, I want to say you're pissing me off, Pisco, but I'm going to try to say this without getting angry.
The Republicans and Trump himself have been hemming and hawing about how important it is to get the deficit under control. In the House is talking about this.
This is America. You know? This is America. They're going to raise the debt ceiling no matter who's in power. There's so many people who disagree with certain things in that bill, including myself and other Republicans, but they get some of what they want, some of what they don't. And if you ask me, it's just honestly the art of the deal.
To be clear, you and I both agree, this is massively adding to our deficit, more so than...
Not massively.
It's massive.
No.
Estimate something like 7 million people are going to lose their health insurance under this provision. And that's going to make people sicker. It's going to impose costs
citizens? Is it 7 million citizens?
Yeah,
or are you just making numbers up? Do you just believe all asylum seekers? Is that how you feel? Like, you just like believe all of them?
No.
Believe all asylum seekers?
Also, we're cutting the IRS agents. And so obviously
we are.
Yeah.
We can do that too.
So obviously that's going to increase bureaucratic wait times. It's going to make things more inefficient, right?
No. Pisco, my little Pisco. Haven't you heard of technology?
Hey folks, please like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to check out my newsletter. Information is in the description.
I'm a lawyer. Yeah.
Are you doing that every day or what?
So yes and no. That'll be yes, I'm a lawyer. I'm in practice, yeah, but I also do this. Just give me 1 second to finish setting up this. But we actually met live, right? Wait, you are that person.
Yes, I swear. I'm the same woman.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm almost ready to go. I just need to fix this.
That was a dope event.
I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a sausage fest, though, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, it was. The pheromones were killing me.
It was a little weird. Smelly in certain places. Do you agree? It was a little musty. All right, 1 second. I'm transitioning the scene, so we're almost good to go. Let's hope. Cool. There you are.
Oh hey.
Everyone can see you now. Say everyone be polite, okay? So we met, to give a little background, Tim Pool had his feature live culture war event, and we were talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia and other related issues. And it happened to take place in Maryland, and you are a Maryland born and raised, right? Or at least you live there now.
Yeah, I am born and raised in Maryland.
Yeah. I like the Pikachu on your bed, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I like it too.
So why don't you introduce yourself, give us a little background, maybe, anything you want to say about your political persuasion. You don't have to get into that. You can just be yourself. But yeah, who are you and what do you stand for?
Well, okay, so my name is Indoctrinate. You can find me online on X at NDKTRN and the number 8. Indoctrinate.
Love it. Is misguided? What is that? That's another something you go by?
Well, yeah. I mean, I change my name on X all the time. Like, I was just going with misguided right now because I am a Christian. So I do like to just like put that at the forefront of my social so people know, like, I am a Catholic. I follow the Lord and I definitely try to be Christ-like. I'm not perfect though. What can I say about my politics? Because I'm Catholic and because of how I was raised and just the way I was educated, I am conservative. I do have a bachelor's in metaphysics and I'm an undergrad for my doctorate and such. So
very cool.
I also have my associates in English and I have many certificates. We don't have to get into all that, but I've been a teacher before.
Very cool. And in terms of conservative politics, would you say, because you mentioned and you referenced it in the Tim Pool discussion, you were like, I'm the one black woman who follows Tim Pool or who's like a fan of Tim Pool, or at least is like, in that community as such. Do you find that to be the case in the different circles that you go into, that people kind of have like a judgmental or prejudging attitude about you and your background?
Absolutely. I definitely, so just being in that Tim world, you know, just adjacent, or I guess also being a participant now, there's not that many Black people. And both of my parents are Black. There's no like biracial anyone anywhere in the line. And both of my parents are thoroughbred Americans. And we have our ancestry completely traced and tracked. It's not a mystery, and it's not up for debate. But as far as like in life and just going through life, I do find that I make people mad. Sometimes, you know, sometimes some racists are really upset that I have similar politics to them, and then sometimes some, you know, just really liberal white women are upset that I don't have the same politics as them. So I find myself definitely like an outlier, but I am out here searching for my people.
Yeah, sure. And I think actually in terms of the MAGA movement, one thing you saw, not so much with Black women. So I think it's fair to say that it would still, you know, you do have Candace Owens, but she's kind of charted out her own road for herself. But there have been recently more outspoken Black content creators in the MAGA world. I'm thinking of like Hodge twins. There's some Twitter guy who I know who's debating more. But basically, I feel like there are now starting to be more visibility on some content creators who, you know, don't meet the stereotypical MAGA supporter you know, appearance and background. And so, but thank you so much for, I mean, you were the I think the interaction I had, which was the most contentious, or maybe one of the most contentious, and certainly it was one of my favorite of all the audience interactions was yours, actually.
I was nice to you.
Yeah, no.
I was so nice to you. The
Well, you started off by
audience was
saying you pissed
horrible.
me off. You pissing me off,
Yeah.
Pisco.
Okay, look, I'm not gonna hold it against you, right? But you know, it's just a healthy debate.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I think it's a healthy debate. I don't hold it against you, and I don't take it personally. I think that one of the things that environment and the way that he set it up, I think it's really cool to have a really contentious atmosphere. And except for the one guy who was like either off his meds or something, he was shouting the whole time. Everyone seemed really
The
chill
one?
afterwards. Well,
The
no,
one?
there was the one guy, you know, who was kind of like tweaking out. But like I shook everyone's hand afterwards, and it was, you know, very cordial. Even though I think I'm gonna be upfront with you, a lot of you guys have fucking atrocious beliefs in my opinion, but that's, you know, we're never gonna get anywhere if we don't have conversations. And so I'm so glad that you decided and agreed to hop on. You were, I think, the only person who agreed to have a discussion about this very topic after I tweeted about it, and usually I have a bunch of people in my replies, and so kudos to you as well. We're here to discuss the big beautiful bill. This is Donald Trump's attempt to pass in a lot of his promises that he made on the campaign trail, including a lot of his immigration promises on tax cuts, promises on even more specific tax provisions like no tax on tips, overtime stuff. And there's a lot of right now finagling congressionally over this, and a lot of controversy over what's going on. And I feel like not a ton of discussion substantively over why we should support this bill, or why we think it's a good idea, or where we agree with it, where we don't agree with it. And so I'm interested to take this wherever you want to go. If you want to have this a more conversational in terms of what you like, what you don't like, if you want it to be more contentious, whatever you feel you want to do, I'm totally down for.
Honestly, I'm curious to see what. Okay,
Yeah.
my opinion on it, honestly, is that there's very few things I don't like. It's not perfect, but I don't see what's wrong with it. I'm curious what everyone's saying in your camp, as well as what you're thinking about what are the issues. I think fiscally it is very responsible, and I think that it's very like pointed instead of broad, and it's going to affect a lot more people directly in the areas in which his voters are, right? The rural areas and in the low income areas. I don't know. I'm curious too. Like, let's get into it. I'm down.
100%. So I think what you just said there strikes me as pretty incredible, because I think we have two very different information spaces, and the things that you pointed out to initially, I think, are the things most isn't, right? And that's with respect to fiscal responsibility and it being good for like the class of MAGA, salt of the earth voter that he was able to get to give him a second chance, right? And that kind of more blue collar, I'm thinking more rural voter. I think of the two things that you could pick out, this bill is one of the most fiscally irresponsible bills that I have ever seen in Congress. And this includes all the massive spending packages from Democrats. And I think it's almost curated to be as bad as possible for like that rural low income voter that would have voted for MAGA. And so I'm happy to, whichever of those you want to go down first, either the sheer irresponsibility of it, or the kind of what seems almost like malicious targeting of the very voter that gave Trump a second chance and voted for him in droves. And so which of those are you most interested in going first?
We can go economics because
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree. I find that the so many tax cuts and so many raising on the caps for these tax cuts is incredible. We honestly, I'm really, what is it that you don't like? There's literally money for everyone who is a citizen, right? He's taking money out of the hands where it's being misspent, and he's literally stopping us from paying taxes. Republicans, historically, they run on cutting taxes, and this is what he's doing.
Yeah. So
middle-class tax cuts.
Right. So I think let's start first. So when I say fiscal, what I mean is like the government's financial accounts. So when we talk about things like balancing the budget, which Trump ran on, like as recently as his recent speech, his joint address, right? The joint address that he was like, we're going to balance the budget. And so before we take a look, and I do want to take a look at those like individual tax provisions and who they benefit and who they don't. Overall, this is a massive spending package. Massive. I mean, we're talking trillions and trillions of dollars in a state where the Republicans have been swearing up and down, one of the biggest existential crises of our country is the deficit. And we are, because of the massive tax cuts that are being proposed here, there's just no question that this is going to irresponsibly add to our deficit in a way that Republicans have been saying for years and years we ought not do. And in comparison to a lot of the Democratic spending packages in years before, which were costed, right? They raised taxes on people, right? The Inflation Reduction Act raised taxes on some people to pay for it, or even like some of Obama's spending packages raised taxes in order to spend for
better. That wasn't cheap.
Right, but it raised we didn't pass Build Back Better. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and that was like revenue neutral. It increased. There was cuts of spending, and there were increases in taxes of like rich people. Which, by the way, Trump has said that he agrees with, but then backed down on when he was pushed back by like House Republicans and by the Republican caucus. Like Trump literally said, maybe it's a good idea to raise taxes on the rich. That would be something that like maybe okay, let's try to make this more beneficial and in terms of the deficit spending. But like, how can we on the one hand have a party that for years has had its hands wringing about the deficit and spending and we have to get it under control, and then to take this massive dump on the deficit and increase it like the military budget being increased by like $100+ billion, it was something crazy like $3 to $5 trillion of tax cuts. How can we justify that?
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. I mean, do you support, spreading democracy as far as the defense package and like where that's being raised? Are you saying we shouldn't be helping the foreign nations that we're currently helping?
So in general, I kind of go against a lot of the populist left people who say we should cut massively the defense spending. I'm okay with having a robust defense spending. I don't think we should increase it as massively as this is increasing it, to be clear. And I think it could be more efficient. Like one of the things that I think Doge should have done, if it were a good faith effort, is to look at defense spending and all what I view as a lot of inefficiencies and waste in that specific area. But in general, I'm okay with having a robust defense spending. I don't agree with spreading democracy through military intervention. In that sense, I'm not like a neocon because I don't think it works, right? We try to implement a lot of these, regime change wars, and they haven't been successful through arms alone. One of the things I think could be successful is the kind of spending that Trump himself is cutting, the kind of like foreign aid, which he's putting like a holds to, or the kind of spending in terms of USAID, which like increases soft power influence, the same way that like Qatar and some might say Israel is influencing other parts of the world, is through that kind of soft power, not necessarily through defense spending. So in general, like I'm not saying that you need to cut massively defense spending. What I'm talking about is globally our fiscal health. The Republicans and Trump himself have been hemming and hawing about how important it is to get the deficit under control. Rand Paul in the Senate is talking about this and raising the debt ceiling. There are certain Thomas Massey in the House is talking about this.
This is America. This is America. They're going to raise the debt ceiling no matter who's in power. I feel like if you look, I am conservative in my beliefs, and I too agree that we shouldn't be raising the debt ceiling. But I'm also being a realist in the sense that, and maybe some people will call it a conspiracy theorist. These folks know that they have power, and they're going to continue to spend until they die because they're locked in. As far as like what color they are or if they're red or blue, I don't think that even matters. Once they're in, they're not leaving for 40 years, especially in Congress, right? So
yes. So I think that there's like I agree that
Trump is doing something in this bill, okay, to appeal to his base. It's the base is a coalition, right? It's actually not just one homogenous group of Republicans. That's why you're talking about Thomas Massey. There's so many people who disagree with certain things in that bill, including myself and other Republicans, but they get some of what they want, some of what they don't. And if you ask me, it's just honestly the art of the deal, right? Like it is how you get a bill passed.
So, no, I agree that these bills are oftentimes, they have pork spending in them. It's like this negotiated process and everything. And different constituencies get the little chunk they have. And you even see that here with some of the salt, like the New York salt Republicans who have been pushing for negotiating an increase on the salt cap to like 40,000, which is I will tell you, even though I'm in favor of getting rid of the salt cap altogether and going back to pre-salt cap days, there's a lot of complaints from Republican senators who say things like, why should we increase the salt cap when that is just helping disproportionately more rich people from blue states? And so I do think that there's a lot of like that partisan gamesmanship in what's going on here. But like to be clear, you and I both agree this is massively adding to our deficit, more so than
Not massively.
It's massive.
No.
You don't agree it's massive?
I don't think it's any more massive than all the loans that we're allowing other countries to take out. There's tons and tons of money that is being produced in the GDP, and it's basically a drop in the bucket. That has nothing to do with this package. This package domestically is going to improve the local economies. That's what's important. And most of this stuff expires in like 4 to 8 years anyways. Most people are in 4 to 8 years are going to be like, oh, wow, that was nice. What was that? And they're going to want this back. And then the debt ceiling is going to be 10 times higher but in 8 years.
The one thing I need to stress upon you and the people is I don't think that there's a good faith argument to say this is not massive. All right. So we're talking over 10 years. Depends on the estimate, right? But the low estimate that the Republicans are going on is like $2 to $3 trillion. All right. $2 to $3 trillion. And I think the more realistic estimates from like CBO and others are like $4 to $5 trillion. That is a massive amount of money over 10 years. It is much larger than even the Build Back Better at its height would have been. It is much bigger than the Inflation Reduction. It is much bigger than the COVID recovery thing that Biden had. This is a huge. It is.
Are you a millennial?
Bigger. I am a millennial. That's right. Yeah.
I'm also millennial. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Look, do you want a recession or not?
I don't want a recession.
Do you want to be able to afford a house or not?
I want to be able to afford a house. I don't think this helps it. I don't think this helps. I'll tell you why.
he's got money. He knows how to handle money. I really look. You're saying it's bad faith, but I do think that in the long term, he knows what he's doing as far as economics. He's been handling large amounts of money. And I don't care what everyone's going to say about his bankruptcies. Okay, fine. But I'm being serious. He's smart with money. He knows more about it than a lot of people in Congress who don't even make their first million till the fifth year. So
I hear you, but okay. So we can get into the nitty gritty about whether it'll help housing and which ways it'll be beneficial. But can we agree it's massive? This is huge. It's trillions of dollars. It's a lot of money. It's big. It's really big. It's the
trillions
big, beautiful
dollars,
bill.
Trillions of dollars in opposition to the tariffs. I don't think it's going to be that bad. 10 years from now, these tariffs are going to be still raking in money. We're still going to be rolling with them. No one's going to be.
Oh, you think the tariffs are going to be raising that amount of money?
They're going to increase the tariffs as time goes on. Whoever's next in power, I don't care. You think it's going to be a Democrat lowering tariffs?
Well,
they love
I hate
taxes.
So I hate to for
they
you.
love taxes.
But then why is Trump saying that he wants to negotiate all these amazing deals to get rid of the tariffs? Right? If they're all about raising revenue, then why is the administration trying to paint this as art of the deal to try to make it more free trade? I mean, one of the reasons I think that you can be forgiven for this is the administration doesn't seem to have a clear, ideology behind the tariffs. And on the one hand, they're like what you're saying, they're saying that it's going to raise revenue, but then they're all talking about, building trade deals to get rid of the tariffs in the first place. And then it wouldn't obviously generate revenue. I think
that's just normal political negotiation. If you don't like something that's another country's doing, you come to the table. There was no table beforehand until these tariffs.
Right, but then they're not. If they're just intended to be like, he's paused a lot of them, right? If they're just intended to be negotiating tools, then they're not really going to drive a bunch of revenue.
Some aren't.
And I'll give you a secret. In no way in hell is the amount of revenue that you're going to generate from these tariffs going to even be close to 2 to 5, depending on the estimate, $1 trillion. Okay, I just want us to agree on like one fact. The spending bill is massive. It's massive, right? It has to be if it's trillions of dollars. And I'm not lying to you about that.
You're just trying to get me to agree that $1 trillion is a lot of money. I agree that's a lot of money. I don't think it's more egregious and outlandish than any other package where we're spending on anything else. Like no one said a thing, okay? When we got Medicare for all, nobody said a thing.
We never got Medicare for all, though.
We got Medicare for most, and then some. And honestly,
wait, when did we get Medicare for most? When did we get Medicare for most?
Yeah, we did.
When?
We got that back. We got that 15 years ago now, and it's been like. It's been working, but our taxes have been raising on localities. I think that the important thing about this bill, where the money is being saved that people don't realize, it kind of feels like that money doesn't get counted, okay, in the economics, is on the local level. On the federal level, okay, how about this? Do we agree that federal taxes are a crime?
No.
That we should not be paying federal taxes?
That's different things. You asked first if it's a crime, then if we should not be paying federal taxes.
Being taxed federally is a crime.
Why is it a crime?
It's an act committed against us, taxation without representation by the government.
So you agree tariffs are a crime then, because tariffs are taxes?
Tariffs are taxes on imports imposed by us to regulate the things that come in this country. If that allows us and enables us to monitor better what comes in this country, then I'm for it.
But is it a crime because it's a tax? It's a tax on domestic importers, and so it's the government taxation without. I don't know why it's without representation because people vote. But under that logic, regardless of the purpose behind the tariffs, it's a tax. It's it's definitionally a tax. And so why would you be in favor?
Are businesses people in your courtrooms that you go to? Are businesses people?
Businesses are not human beings. Can I just give you one?
Are corporations
I just want to say there's a raid right now, so no one can hear. So thank you so much for the raid, Dylan Burns. Thank you so much for the raid. 126. We're talking right now to I keep saying misguided, but it's actually Indoctrinate. We're talking about the big beautiful bill. We're now having a kind of more principled discussion about taxes and tariffs, trying to see her view on tariffs. And so thank you very much for the raid. The music's still going on, and so I'm just still going to filibuster. But everyone should follow Dylan Burns TV on Twitch and on YouTube. A lot of foreign politics stuff, a lot of international relations. I know he's taking a look at the administration's recent actions in, I'm sure, the Middle East, but especially Ukraine. So thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt you and indoctrinate. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Wait, are you on Twitch right now?
I'm on Twitch and YouTube. Are you banned on Twitch?
Oh, I am on Twitch.
Okay, cool.
But I didn't know you were. I didn't know we were on Twitch. That's so cool.
Yeah, we're on Twitch
Are there
and YouTube.
people who care about politics on Twitch?
Yeah. So
Or are you?
we have
Or are
people
you a
watching
gamer?
us right
I
now.
didn't know.
So
But you're not a gamer.
Well, I privately I'm a gamer. I play games privately, but I don't stream games. But yeah, people do care about politics on Twitch. You got tons of people watching. Did you not know that?
No, I don't know where you what your platforms are.
Oh,
Sorry. I just know you on X and on YouTube.
Here, I'll give you a link right now. You have something like 500 people watching you on YouTube, and you have something like 100 something people watching you on Twitch.
But we're not live on X. X is where the fun is at.
I know, but I don't get money from X. Come on, they suck at the revenues. No, my bad. But anyway, I just think you asked whether it was a crime to tax. If by crime you mean against the U.S. law in a criminal and defined as criminal statute, obviously it's not a crime, right? The Constitution gives the government the power to tax both individual people and literally to impose tariffs is one of like the major powers that Congress has. And so when you ask, is imposing a tax a crime? The objective answer is no under U.S. law. If you mean more broadly, is it a crime against like your libertarian values? Maybe, I guess, but I don't know why that matters.
What I'm saying is that literally the federal like spending is something that we have no say in, whereas anything like domestic and local, like anything from our state, county, cities, all of those localities, we see it every day. That's what really matters, and that's what these tax cuts represent. They represent the Fed taking their foot off the neck of the local area. You know, honestly, how many of you live somewhere and you pay these federal taxes, you don't even know where it goes. You're just like, yeah, I guess it's going to Israel. You don't even know where it's going.
Yeah, but then why
is it? But at least
so right now under the current bill, they're increasing the burdens on the states. How can I say that, right? Well, they're reducing the federal. I'm gonna tell you, right? They're reducing federal expenditure on, for example, food stamps, and how they're doing that is they're increasing costs on states, right? States don't have, under current law, any obligation to pay for federal SNAP. But under the new framework, they're going to have, like I think 5% of the benefits costs are going to be paid by states. And they're going to raise the administrative costs, I think, to like 75% as opposed to 50% originally. And so there are many instances of this, right? Where the federal government is imposing on states an increased burden for them to give services to the people. And those services, to get to the other point that I wanted to address, by and large benefit people that you referenced at the start, right? Those rural people who don't make a ton of money, you know, they're not going to get all the benefits from these tax cuts because they already pay very little in federal taxes. They're not going to get the benefits of for example, the increase in the child tax credit because they already make too little money for the non-refundable portions of those taxes to apply. And they're not going to get the benefits of the cut in services from Medicaid and from food stamps. So like all of this stuff, I'm just being honest with you, is a massive transfer to the wealthy.
So whoa. So you think that cutting food stamps in I don't know, your city is gonna somehow transfer that money into the elites of your city's hands? That's not how that works. Yes,
it will. I'll tell you how.
No,
I'll tell you how.
I'll tell you how.
So this is how it works, right? So the government is cutting Medicaid, right? Cutting Medicaid, cutting food stamps, and they're using those cuts, right? They're cutting a lot of those programs, or at least some of the benefits they're giving under those programs, and they're spending that money, right? Those cuts on things that are tailored to the richest people. And that is, they're like cutting corporate taxes. They're cutting the estate tax. They're
Corporate
cutting
taxes, business taxes
they're
for
cutting those.
small.
Yeah.
That works for small businesses. Since when are you against small business or what?
So I'm not against small businesses. This is not going to help small
Right.
businesses. This is not going to help small
Yes, it
businesses.
is.
No, and combined with tariffs, it's going to hurt small businesses. This is going to benefit the biggest and wealthiest among us and the biggest corporations, because what's really happening here is we are imposing costs on the day-to-day laborers. We're imposing costs on regular people, regular Americans, and we're transferring those benefits up to the tippy top. And the people who are going to be most apt to take advantage of these tax loopholes and these reduced rates and these different provisions are going to be the richest corporations among us, the richest individuals among us. And so it is a net transfer from the poor to the rich. And I don't even think that's arguable.
It is arguable because you're talking about money that is a drop in the bucket to these corporations. This is nothing to them. This is going to be huge for small businesses. You take your foot off their neck for 4 to 8 years, hopefully 12 years, and you will see that they will prosper. It's not
But
just
the tariffs aren't going to help them, right? The
corporations.
tariffs are not going to
The
help. Yeah, go for
The
it.
tariffs are going to encourage them. No, hold on. I'm not getting pissed off. Don't worry.
Yeah.
The tariffs are going to help them turn around and buy things in America. The only people who are having trouble are the people who are exclusively buying things that are outside of like cultural things that are literally like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of something that's like from another country.
The tariffs.
Kimonos,
No,
right? Like
no, no,
just
no.
as an example,
They're,
right?
they're
Like
buying
if you're
part.
getting an authentic kimonos, okay, you're that you run a shop here in somewhere in New York, you're doing expensive, exclusive kimonos. Guess what? None of us could afford that stuff anyways. Okay? And those folks who get those things that are exclusively like imported, I don't know if you've ever owned a business. I have, and I'm working on bringing it back, baby. But literally, these international economic funds are created, grants are created to subsidize the tariffs. They're created to give people a leg up in America when they get here. Immigrants have a lot of options, okay? Not just Asian or Latino. I mean, even like European immigrants can come here and get crazy grants just to start a business here on top of what American grants or local grants are already coming out, for them. So the money's not going to go swiftly into the hands of, the owner of the regional McDonald's in your area. Like that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I don't think
What's
it's that
going to happen
ridiculous.
is corporations are going to soon be de-incentivized to even continue to develop. Have you looked at a mall lately? Like, have you been to JCPenney and Macy's lately? I mean, I know we're all shopping online, but what about Joann's? We don't even have major corporations surviving, and we're 5 years out on COVID. Like, it's been dying. Corporations aren't going to hang in there. Thank God for Amazon.
I just don't like. I think that small businesses are not going to be helped by tariffs, and they're not going to see much relief, in my opinion.
I'm telling you, they
from
are.
this bill. Okay. But like, even just putting aside the specific issue of small businesses just for a second,
Yeah.
you don't take too seriously the fiscal threat of the bill, right? Because you're saying it's going to be offset by the tariffs, right?
Not just the tariffs.
So how are we going to?
Tariffs.
Will you at least agree that this is fiscally problematic, right? It's adding a lot to America's checkbook at a time when bond rates are going up. In other words, our debt, our interest payments are going up, right? And how expensive American debt is increasing for the government.
No. Interest rates are going down. Rent just went down. rent just stabilized this past year. Okay,
about
and I'm
bond
talking
rates.
about interest. The reason rent stabilizes is because your landlord doesn't have as much to pay. So, especially in taxes and especially in new loans. So, what we're can we okay, here's what we can agree on. The debt ceiling is going to go up no matter what because these people are in power who know that they're going to die in power.
Well,
Can
I
we at
don't
least
think.
agree on that?
No, I don't think that we're. First of all, I think the debt ceiling is kind of stupid anyway. I would get rid of it altogether. So I'm not like principally against the debt ceiling, but what it's raising the debt ceiling is an indication that the Trump administration actually has no interest, even though they say they want to balance the budget. They're lying about that. They don't really want to, and Trump is lying about that when he says we need to balance the budget. Can you at least agree, if you're saying they're always going to do this, they're always going to raise the debt ceiling, can you at least agree that when Trump says we're going to balance the budget, he's lying?
No, he's not lying. On the back end, no, and here's why. Even if the debt ceiling is raised, okay, he's gonna try. Okay, how about this? We'll agree on he's gonna try to balance the budget. He's going to make a big
How is he
heavy
trying,
swing.
right? How so this
Because
is not
on the
trying.
back end, rent is going to go down.
No. I'm
Business
talking
owners
about
are going to be able to stay in business. American products are going to be pushed more on the back end, like the things we don't think about, right? Why is everything imported as far as the little things, right? Like every little plastic thing, every like Q-tip we use, like come on. Those things better come
I'm talking
back
about
to
something very
the
specific,
States,
which
and
is
they have been.
the government, right? The government of the United States, it can borrow money and it can spend money, right? And people for years have raised concern about the amount that America, the government, is borrowing, right? America is borrowing a shit ton of money. And what the government does to borrow money is it sells these things called bonds. And these bonds, right, pay out interest, and then they pay out the principal at the end of a certain term. And what we're seeing is when America is in this position with the tariffs and it's a kind of shaky economic ground, and when they propose that they're going to borrow trillions of dollars to pay for this bill, the cost of that debt is increasing. And the amount of debt that America has, the country America, the government of America, is rapidly increasing. So when you tell me Trump is not lying when he says he's going to try to balance the
Then
budget,
every
why would he
president
pass this
before him
bill?
was like every president before him who even played around with raising the debt ceiling, including Obama, was a liar. You calling him a liar now?
So
Your
I don't
American
think that
hero,
I don't think that
Barack
Joe
Hussein
Biden.
Obama?
I don't think that they ever made promises that weren't going to increase the debt ceiling. I'm not saying that Trump is lying about saying that he won't increase the debt ceiling. What I'm saying he's lying about is the notion that he's trying to balance the budget. He's not trying
He's
to
not
balance the
bailing
budget.
out big banks. He's not bailing out the top
The fuck
five.
he
He's
isn't.
not sitting up.
The
Dude,
fuck he
no, he's
isn't.
not. These are targeted moves to affect localities. I think that overall, yeah, we have a problem with big banks and big business and big corporations. But he's not even going to address them in this one, not majorly. This is going to be a targeted, poignant, like relief to people who have been crushed.
Okay,
The American dream for them.
I'm trying.
That
I'm
has
trying to
been crushed.
specify it. I'm trying to specify to like one thing, which is this notion, and then we can broaden it out for sure, and we can talk about any
Oh
aspect
my
of this.
gosh. You
That you
just want me to acquiesce on like some
No.
fairy tale that he's a demon. He's not the
No,
worst guy
I'm
in
not trying.
America.
Listen,
Relax.
if Trump does something good, I will praise him for it. I've done it in
Yeah?
the past. I'm not.
Bullshit.
What do you mean
Would
bullshit?
you?
Yes, I
Would
would.
you?
Yes, I
Name
would.
one thing, say one good thing about him right now.
First Step Act, his targeted tariffs at China, I thought were good. Even though a lot of people disagree with me on that, I think that
Oh.
he what
Oh.
targeted
Oh.
tariffs, targeted tariffs.
So now that
Why you say oh like that? Why you say oh like that? Can you name one
I'm
thing that
just
Biden
saying.
did that you liked? Can you name one thing that Biden did that you liked?
he fell down the stairs on Air Force One. I thought
Dude,
that
be
was
serious. Be
hilarious.
serious. Be serious.
Okay, I'm sorry. Um, he ate a lot of ice cream at the
Yeah,
Baltimore
you're
Harbor.
fucking memeing. You're memeing.
I'm sorry.
So that's what I mean. So like, don't accuse me of having Trump derangement syndrome because I would never call it a good
I
policy.
didn't say that. Hold on.
Oh.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but
You
you were
just,
like,
I see, you seem to have a hard on for, no, you seem to have a hard on for nitpicking. And there you
It's
go,
not
saying
nitpicking.
that these tariffs were in fact good for being targeted.
No, I think
So
that
come on.
some of Trump's initial tariffs
Come
in
on.
his first term, I think made sense when he wasn't pissing off the entire world, and when there were strategic reasons why America needed to, in certain areas, wean themselves off of Chinese products. So, for example, semiconductors, where and Biden I think massively improved on this with his actual production bills on semiconductors. So there are certain areas where I think it makes total sense. Even where some Trump policies, I know we're going to disagree on this, but some of Trump's COVID policies with respect to making sure that people had checks, right? Trump passed legislation along with bipartisan Congress to make sure that people were getting checks,
didn't you?
checks during COVID, to make sure that people weren't, suffering that much. And so I agree with some of that legislation. I agree with Operation Warp Speed. So there's a lot of things that Trump did that I have agreed with in the past and signaled agreement with. I actually thought, so I was against Trump winning in 2016, but Trump has had the potential and has the potential now to be the most consequential president in like passing bipartisan legislation. If he wanted to, he could do that. He could resolve issues in the Middle East if he wanted to. He's not going to do that. He could resolve issues in Europe if he wanted to. He's not going to do that. And so I'm not here saying that I'm going to disagree with everything Trump says because Trump does it. You, however, have been unable to identify a single thing that Biden did in a real way, not just ice cream, not just falling down the stairs, that you've agreed with.
Okay, first of all, COVID was a fever dream, and so is post-COVID. I'm really trying to think of one thing. I've been trying, and there might be one. Okay, there might be one. Might be. Okay, I just can't think of it off the top of my head because every time he opened his mouth, he was slurring and rambling, and I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't even believe it was him who was doing it. So, thank you for, admitting that you don't have Trump derangement syndrome. Thank you for admitting that he's not the most, horrible person.
I think he's one of the most horrible persons. I think he has potential, but he's going to squander that potential because he sucks as a human being, is evil. But that is separate and apart from this discussion.
I would say the same about a lot of politicians.
I know you would.
They are evil people, but my gosh, he's actually trying. And I feel that he's not allowing the people who pay him to control him because he's used to the money. He doesn't need the money. I know you're like, wait, we're getting off topic. I know.
We are,
you got to give him some credit. You have to give him some credit on the fact that he's not sitting around and like letting the American people like harm itself.
He is doing that.
No, he's not. He's actively trying to stop the division. He's trying to return. No, seriously, you think that these tax cuts are unrelated to this? This is literally going to ease the tension in our local communities. Like literally.
No, it's not. He's cutting healthcare from people in your communities. He's cutting healthcare for the poorest among us. He's cutting food stamps for the closest among us.
I'm talking about citizens. Talking about citizens.
No, it is going to affect citizens.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. All right. And we had this discussion earlier. Okay. There is a serious problem going on with the census. Okay. Where I grew up. Okay. Serious issue. Severe issue. I don't know what they were doing or how they did it, but I do know that they take this, they flood these people, these asylum seekers in. Okay. They give them tons and tons of SNAP benefits on the locality's dime, and they have raised the taxes in Montgomery County to the most exorbitant rates that they were forced to make the minimum wage $17 an hour, as if we're some type of elite, village in California. Like this is not,
Yeah, but Trump is not.
This is not New York.
But Trump is cutting Medicaid federally. And it's not just it's not just going to affect
pushing it
these-
back onto
these
the
blue
states so that the
No,
states stop
increasing
with
the burden
influx.
increasing burden on the states. That's why by the way, for example,
The
Josh
burden
Hawley
on the politicians. The burden is on the politicians.
no, it's on
He's
your fellow
returning the
Americans.
power. He is returning the power that the federal giving money to the state is enabling. He's returning that power back to the states to actually say, we're going to spend within our budget instead of constantly returning
But he's
the budget at the end of the
You
year.
can't talk about fiscal responsibility in this conversation and then like try to, because before I was trying to talk about the fiscal responsibility of this bill and we kind of got sidetracked to discussions about Trump and whether or not I'm just wanting to disagree with Trump no matter what. But I really want to focus on that. But just to address something you said there, it's not just going to affect these, examples that you're pointing to where like blue states are giving like extra benefits. And sometimes they do give benefits to people who are here illegally. That's true, but that's the states doing it. It's not the federal government doing it. But the federal government is doing cuts that are going to affect states like Missouri, where Josh Hawley, a super conservative Republican from Missouri, is saying that my state is going to suffer massively if we cut Medicaid. And he's on the fence about what he's going to vote for. Now, time will tell if he'll eventually vote for it. But he's signaling concerns because it is a real concern that red states are some of the biggest beneficiaries of Medicaid. And the rural people among them are going to see their benefits reduced. They just are. But I do want to stick real quick on, I want to finish at least one train of thought about the fiscal responsibility of this bill. And I want to make sure that we're both understanding each other. Like, I'm talking about the government debt and deficit. So you have your pocketbook.
It's massive.
Right. Trump is not trying to reduce the deficit because this bill, like I just told you, anywhere between 2.5 to $5 trillion over 10 years, it's going to increase.
4 trillion. No, he didn't. No one's saying 5. That's not true. They're saying up to 4. So no. You
Listen,
just like pulled that out your butthole.
Listen,
look,
so some people are saying 5.
It's not going to be 5. No one's saying who's saying that. Who?
Okay.
There's an owl in here. There is an owl in here. Who's saying that? And you're right. We do come from different information spheres because I've not seen 5 this entire time. I'm like, okay, 2, 3, okay, 4, fine. But literally, no, we cannot do semantics when it comes down to economics. All right. On the back end, literally these cuts for the localities, these cuts on real estate, the rent is already stabilized. It's going to be even lower.
Okay, so it looks like it's $5 trillion in tax cuts, but it's because they're offsetting it by $1 trillion. I think that's where I think that number comes from, where the $5 trillion comes from. But I'll check to make sure there's not an estimate that's $5 trillion. But fine, I'll accept that range, like 2.5 to 4 trillion. And I'm even giving you a range to note that there are different ways to calculate this that don't necessarily say the same thing. So I'm giving you the range, but like just take the middle of it. Let's say it's 3 trillion. 3 trillion over 10 years. That's increasing the deficit.
Okay, yeah, that's an increase.
Yeah, so he's not trying to decrease the deficit, and
he's balancing it. He is trying to balance it by offsetting the cost on the American people, the local people, not just I don't even know what even is in there for that truly greatly bails out or benefits mass corporations, these failing, over bloated corporations that are in Missouri paying these people next to nothing, mind you, these poor people who could do better on their own, innovating and inventing and creating their own businesses. These are opportunities for them to make money for themselves and not seriously. No, and did you just roll your eyes at the American dream? You just rolled your eyes at the American dream. I just
don't understand
and I don't understand how you can have so little like faith in that. You have to stop feeding the stray cats. Like what are you doing?
Right, so you admit, or like what we're doing here is we're stopping feeding the stray cats here. That is poor people, poor Americans, and we're stopping feeding them, and we're reducing their healthcare benefits. And what we're doing instead, you asked, how is this going to help big corporations? It's an extension of the Trump tax cuts and an increase of the Trump tax cuts from 2017 that reduced the corporate tax rate, that reduced, I believe, either the capital gains tax rate or some other pass-through tax rates that affect big corporations. So you can go through and be more detailed about it, but there is no debate that big corporations are going to benefit from the tax provisions in this act because they're an extension and an enlargement of those that passed in 2017. And of course, they were benefited from that. So there's no debate about that. They are going to be benefited. And there also is no debate that Medicaid benefits and food stamps are going to be cut. And so that is a massive transfer, right? A massive transfer from the poor, from the downtrodden, to
It's
the
being
rich.
cut. It's not a transfer though, in that we're not going to agree on this. I'm going to tell you right now.
Why?
It's not a transfer because if you really read this bill, it's not a transfer of the money to the folks who are the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich. The poorest of the poor don't have jobs and don't pay taxes. That's how they get the stuff that
benefits,
is
right?
free.
They get Medicaid.
We're talking about taking the money that
You just said
the
something
middle
perfect.
class has been going blanketly going into the Fed, where we don't know what's going on with it, and we're stopping it
You
under
just
the
said something
guise
perfect,
of
right?
Medicare and SNAP.
You just said something perfect, right? The poorest of the poor,
What?
they don't pay that much in taxes anyway, right? Because either they don't have a job or they have a very low paying job or they have multiple jobs that are very low
It's
paying.
not going to change much for them.
The tax cuts are not going to benefit them that much because they either already have low taxes or no taxes.
Exactly.
But they are going to get a reduction in benefits. That is going to hurt them, right? It's going to net hurt them. And the other provisions there that you would think might help the poorest of the poor, right? This bill actually increases the child tax credit. It increases it by $500 from $2,000 to $2,500, but it's only increasing it in what's known as a non-refundable portion, and so it's not going to help anyone below a certain income threshold. So it's almost like this bill was specifically designed to hurt the poor and to benefit. At least some middle class people will benefit from the increase in the child tax credit, but not the poorest of the poor.
Are you talking about the provision to stipulate that people on SNAP have to have a job to get SNAP?
No, I'm talking about the
Are you talking
child.
about,
No, I'm talking about the child tax
You're
credit.
ignoring the fact that it's calling for folks to actually do something. Like, this is not people who have certified disabilities are not going to be feeling this. It's really going to be the people who don't want to get up and work, who are going to be forced, like literally like stray cats. And I'm not trying to, don't get me wrong, I'm not being classist by any means, because I'm also part of the poor group. I'm probably, I would say, like lower middle class, if not just barely at the top of the bottom. Okay. And so, this stuff is going to basically not change the lowest of the low's life as much. And you're saying that it's going to reduce benefits.
Hang on, no, it will.
Reduce
No, but
benefits
this is why.
for
This is
who?
why.
People who don't need it.
So you're talking
people who
about
already don't need it.
So people
People
on
who
Medicaid,
don't- who
people on
don't
Medicaid
earn
and
it.
food stamps, people on Medicaid and food stamps. Oh, you're talking about something different. I was talking about the child tax credit, and what I was referring to, not the work requirements that are in these other provisions. I was talking about the child tax credit, and I was trying to explain how even things that you would think would help the poorest of the poor isn't actually helping them because
You
there's
even get the
limitations.
child tax credit without having a job.
You
can't
can.
even get that. No,
Yes,
you
can.
can't.
Yes, you can. So there are
Only
certain,
if your deductions meet a certain amount.
So no, there are both refundable portions of the child tax credit that would apply to you regardless of whether or not you would get a refund from the government. And there are certain categories of people who are eligible for the child tax credit.
It's only like the 500 out of the 2,500, isn't it? It's not that much.
No, I think the
That's a
refundable
drop in the
portion-
bucket
I
for
think the
anybody with
refundable-
children.
I think the refundable portion is like over $1,000. I think it's like something like 1,700 or something like that. Someone
If
can
you
tell me
don't
better.
work and you have a kid, you don't get that much back. You still
okay.
have to work.
So $1,700 or however much the refundable portion is a lot of money to poor people. It's a great deal. It really helps them. And the additional $500 that they would have gotten from this expansion from the child tax credit that Trump is proposing, they would be helped by that. That would mean a lot to them. But what is happening, right? The poorest of the poor aren't getting it. And then U.S. children who have at least one parent who doesn't have a social security number aren't eligible at all. Those parents aren't eligible at all for the child tax credit, and so they're not going to.
Why don't they have a social security? Why your parents don't have a social security number?
So it could be that person is not an American citizen, and so typically U.S.
So get
children,
one. Get a social security number.
But the thing is, what if you have one parent who is a U.S. citizen and one who is not, and you're a child?
What is this, the 1860s? Why don't you have a social?
It could be that you're not an American citizen, and so you don't have a social security number.
That's definitely what it is. It's not like some rural person in Missouri who's just bull crap. How do they go to the hospital? How do they get a job? How do they live?
You don't need to get into it.
How do they apply? How do they apply for these benefits? How do they apply for these benefits? If this was the 1860s and you're telling me you were born in a bathtub, okay.
There are U.S. citizens who are exempt. So I'm just going to tell you, there are U.S. citizens that don't have to register for social security number. There are actual exemptions to Social Security. And then there are people who just don't have one because they're born out in the middle of nowhere. Never got one. This thing does exist. I'm just telling you, a lot of the use cases are going to be a U.S. child who has a U.S. parent, one U.S. parent, but the other parent isn't, right? Or we don't know where the other U.S. parent is or something like that. So millions of kids, their parents are going to lose access to the child tax credit because of this provision. And so all of this is an example. All of this is an example of, you want me to send you links to stuff in the moment right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I need those. Thank you.
So here are some links that I'll give you.
Thank you. All of this is an example of what? Hurting people who are mooching and hiding from something? Why are you hiding? Get a social security card. Why are you exempt from participating? Explain that part.
This is do you want me to send you stuff or explain stuff? What do you want? I'm sending you stuff right now.
Okay. Sorry, you can't multitask. Sorry about that.
Well, I have to get you the links. Give me one sec. So this is an AP article.
It's okay.
This is a breakdown from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget that gets you the line items for each of the different provisions. Another one that I'm using here is this.
No, send me the link to the streams. I don't want that. I want this. I don't want that crap. Sorry. I already have that crap.
Okay. I
have tons of this.
That crap? You have that crap?
This propaganda you're sending over here. Let me read some of that.
Wild.
Get a refresh.
So this is
my Kool-Aid's low tonight. Need some more.
This is the Twitch stream. So I sent you the YouTube stream and the Twitch stream.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. People don't read the comments. They're obviously not coded to be in favor of you. So don't take that as anything.
I can't see the comments. I'm above them.
Oh, you can't see them. So the reason I brought the child tax credit is an example of an area where you would think this bill is going to help the poorest of the poor, but they put in these little provisions that undercut the very thing that supposedly is going to be beneficial. But if you want to talk about the food stamps and for the Medicaid cuts, those are going to hurt regular Americans, not just illegal immigrants, obviously, who aren't eligible for a lot of these programs under the federal provisions, but it's going to hurt real Americans. And not just quote unquote lazy Americans. Most of these benefits go to people who have jobs. Something like 66 to 70% of people who get Medicaid do work. And I think even more of that have some kind of qualifying exemption where they can't work, either because of some kind of disability or something, or maybe they're in school. And so the majority of people who are on these programs do in fact work. What this is going to do, and what the Republicans are counting on, and what Trump is counting on, is it's going to create more paperwork, more bureaucracy, right? You want to talk about Doge. Doge is supposed to make everything efficiency. What they're counting on, and why this actually is going to pay for the tax cuts, is they know that billions of dollars of aid is going to be cut to people who otherwise are eligible, because people don't know how to fill out the paperwork, because it's going to create inefficiencies, because these people are low information. And so you're making things less simple, more complicated, more forms, more bureaucrats, specifically to gum up the works.
I think that's completely the opposite. I think that by removing the federal funding of these like, what's the word? Satellite offices. If we just get these satellite offices out of our state, okay, we can actually control our states the way we want to. And I mean that for whoever wants to, be a participant in the community, you will actually be able to better do that by having federal bureaucrats removed from your area. And that's coming from someone who's grown in the seat of power.
But it's increasing the amount of bureaucracy.
No, it's not increasing. The work for the state does. This now the state has to get their crap together and stop literally being its own version of a stray cat.
So what this is going to do is going to increase the amount of bureaucratic steps it takes for someone who is eligible for the program, a U.S. citizen who's eligible for this, to hop through, and it's going to decrease the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, estimates something like 7 million people are going to lose their health insurance under this provision. And that's going to make people sicker. It's going to impose costs
citizens?
on
Is it 7 million citizens?
Yeah,
or are you just making numbers up?
7 million citizens.
7 million
hang on.
citizens?
So let me actually get the
They're
CBO.
citizens. We know they're all citizens and that
Yes,
they have
it's-
social securities.
Yes, it's Medicaid. Hang on, CBO, Medicaid.
And what age group are they? These people who are falsifying records, who can work but are
Okay, we
pretending
don't
not
have
to?
seven.
Like, what
We
are
don't have
talking
7, 8
about?
million people who are like that. Let me get the actual.
What do you
preliminary
mean?
numbers.
What do you mean we don't?
1 second. I'm getting you the numbers.
Anyone in the comments who is being a hater right now is racist. So there's that.
They're being.
I don't make the
racist?
rules. I don't know. I can't see them.
All right, here we go.
Did you send that to me? No. What did
I
you
gave
do?
you the links. Just 1 sec.
Where?
The Congressional Budget Office estimates this is that 10.3 million people would lose their Medicaid coverage by 2034 under the GOP bill. About half of them due to the work requirement provision. Other losses would result from a number of smaller provisions according to the estimate. These include things like more frequent and stringent eligibility checks that will also require people to jump through more hoops to keep their benefits. Outside projections are even higher. The left-leaning Center for Budget Policy and Priorities estimated that as many as 14.4 million people could lose their benefits in the next decade. So some of the and to what end?
Doesn't
right?
specify citizens. Doesn't
No,
specify
but
citizens.
okay, Medicaid under the it's so states are allowed to provide like benefits to their illegal immigrants and to non-citizens, but Medicaid under federal is for citizens.
Okay. Okay. Coming from a community where I literally watch the veterans and the poorest people, the trailer park people, all sorts of people living in projects. Okay, people who, sure, they were failed by the education system.
And for
but they have
qualified
Social
non-citizens.
Security.
So and these are not for illegal immigrants, is what I mean. So there are qualified
Qualified
non-citizens.
non-citizen. What the?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just
What's a qualified non-citizen? Is that a dreamer? Is that what we're talking about?
no. So
A failed
it's
anchor baby?
so it's for people who are covered by like temporary protected status, special juvenile status, immigrant juvenile status, Convention Against Torture, certain victims of trafficking, certain non-immigrant visas,
Asylum seekers.
certain asylum seekers for sure. Yeah, but all I mean to say is people who are it does not cover, and by and large, illegal immigrants, people who break the law to enter.
Do you just believe all asylum seekers? Is that how you feel? Like you
No.
just like believe
No.
all of them?
No,
Believe
No.
all asylum seekers?
no,
There's just
no. But this isn't just
millions
this
of
is going to
asylum
affect
seekers.
U.S. citizens.
Believe all of them.
This is going to affect U.S. citizens.
U.S. citizens that what? They can't fill out paperwork. They can't get a job. Like, what are you? You're not being. I'm really confused how.
Yeah,
What-
so
there-
people who
Even that article is generic. I'm not understanding.
So people, they're counting on individuals who are otherwise eligible from not filling out the administrative paperwork to do the kind of increased bureaucratic steps that you have to do. They're counting on that. That's why they can count on decreased amounts of enrollees in Medicaid. You're imposing work requirements a lot on people. To what end, right? Why are you doing that? It's not going to increase or lower unemployment. And so it's not going to really, because we've already tested these kinds of provisions out in different states, and it hasn't resulted in decreased unemployment. So all you're doing, and it's by necessity because you're needing to decrease the budget, is you're removing benefits.
Have you ever had to apply for like welfare?
I have
you
never
ever
had to
fill
apply
out
for welfare.
All right, guys, listen up carefully. He's never filled that paperwork out. Not only are you not like they're not just
I
doing
filled
work
out paperwork for
requirements,
other things just because I haven't done
other
welfare.
people, but you should know that the paperwork it's very similar. If you may have been unemployed once,
it can
it's
be
very similar.
complicated. No,
You
it can be
have to
complicated.
complicate. It's
Yeah.
like 2 pages, and you just have to like have an address for the mail to go to. That's why there's so many people who are unchecked without any.
Are you
uh,
serious? So
Yeah,
people get
no,
confused by
yeah.
like by government websites and government forms all the time. Everyone knows
The
that
websites are not the
everyone has a
forms.
parent. Everyone has a parent who like needs your help navigating the portal, who doesn't know like what qualifies or what.
I don't.
They get rejected. Come on, just because you don't doesn't mean people.
I don't.
You know, and you're being insensitive if you think that regular Americans don't have trouble understanding the requirements even for basic shit. There are people who don't fill out the FAFSA, even though they're eligible. There are people who don't apply for like, scholarships.
I'm
they
speaking
are
to my
eligible
community
for.
here.
No,
I'm going to say
on.
if you are sitting up here and you know how to twerk and post that to Instagram, you should be able to go ahead and fill out the paperwork. I don't understand what you're getting at, because the same people who are applying for these benefits are the same people who are exploiting the money, the benefits that they do get. So I'm not even pro benefits at all. Like, you're barking up the wrong tree anyways.
Right. So you would cut
I
all
really
of
think
Medicaid,
that
right?
I think that it's no, I wouldn't cut all Medicare, especially not for people who are disabled, veterans, or the sick and seriously elderly. Like, that is our priority, and that is our duty as a community to take care of those people. But taking care of those people and not in excess, not getting to, and it doesn't even matter. Hold on, Pisco, because you know what they're going to do anyways? They're going to just change the definition of the things that are being cut so that it fits into the guidelines for the Fed. So the states do this every single time, and that's all they have to do. They're playing on semantics.
No,
okay?
it's not. So people are actually
They
going to
are.
lose. People are actually going to lose their healthcare benefits. That's what's actually going to happen, and they're counting on it
it's not.
because
You're
so you don't-
fear-mongering.
So you don't think
You're
do you-
fear-mongering.
How much you want to bet?
The only people that are going to lose it for sure are people who shouldn't have it. People who don't want to work and have been getting away with not working, and people who apparently don't have a social security number because they were born in a bucket. I don't know where these people were born, but they're like,
wait. So you think that
they're just allowed to not
so you
have
think
a
that people,
social security number?
You think there won't be people who lose their insurance because of administrative issues and the increase in the bureaucratic steps to verify eligibility? You don't think that people will lose insurance?
It's less. No, less. Cutting the money is less. That will literally take away the constant checks by the Fed on these localities.
Okay, so we need to agree
It's
on
going
this,
to
right?
decrease paperwork.
You need to.
That's
That's
what
delusional. That's
federal
delusional. So
cuts do.
we need to agree.
Delusional.
It is delusional. It is delusional.
Delusional.
So, yes, it is delusional. We need to agree on this. Right? You and I we have to agree on this, right? Just like we agree.
I wouldn't even call you delusional. That's crazy. I can't go there. That's low.
What you just said was delusional. I'll explain why.
That's low.
Right? It's not low. It's not low. It's because it's so imposing a work requirement by
Watch your mouth.
You watch your mouth. You fucking watch your mouth. Listen, we have to agree on this. Imposing a work requirement by definition is going to increase paperwork, right?
No.
No? How are we going to check to see if you're working?
They already know. That's why this whole paying taxes crap, I'm not even down with. They already know how much money you're making because you have a social security number. And you have to give that to your employer.
What do you mean they already know? What if you get fired? What if you before you get
you do your taxes, you pay individual tax, don't you? Don't you?
I pay
or do you
individual
pay
tax. Well, why does it matter
yeah,
what I do?
so they already know. They already know what number it is. They already know the number.
What do you mean the number? So when you apply for these benefits,
they have the invoices. They know the money's moving from accounts. They already know.
You file taxes in
the Fed already knows.
So you file taxes in April or before in the new year, but like you don't file it until after the year's over, right? So there could be lagging between when you earn the income and when the IRS gets it. That's number one. And number two, just because you earn income in a year doesn't mean that at the time you're applying for the benefits, you fulfill the work requirement. And so by necessity, You need to, if you're going to implement a work requirement check, that's going to check at the time you're applying for the benefit, whether you're eligible. You can't just rely on the past year's tax return.
See, this is where I counter the delusional argument, because honestly, if you've never had to personally be in a level where you had to like find benefits or find welfare or find housing or find it, right? You have to, like, maybe you couldn't. You're talking about the poorest people. That's what they have to do.
So
the poorest people.
I myself have not applied
for
welfare.
Let me tell you though. We have in this country, especially in the inner cities, blue states, and especially in places overrun with, dare I say it, immigrants. But these people have access. These people have access to tons and tons and tons of resource. And these resources are provided at the state level. The Fed has nothing to do with this money that is from the locale community, like literally from us, like the people with the jobs who go out and pay the money in April. They get this free food, free benefit. They get gift cards. They get tons and tons and tons of benefits that all they have to do is go and find before they even try to find a job to go and get that taken care of. We're doing
a very discreet
thing. You're talking about an excess. You're talking about an excess on top of that, which is food stamps.
I'm talking about something discreet, which is
you agree. Do not need.
You agree, don't you, that when we impose additional checks, right? We're increasing the number of checks. We're making them biannual, and we're imposing a work requirement where one did not exist before. That is by necessity going to increase the amount of forms people have to fill out. Agreed?
The work requirement
is it yes or no? Yes or no? Is it going to increase?
No, it's not, because that's not. Right? That's going to be put. No. That's because that's going to be imposed by the state. That's up to the state to enforce that or not. Okay, the Fed actually saying we're not doing this anymore and we're not going to hand this over anymore is actually going to help the state decide for itself. You think it's
going to reduce paperwork? You think this is going to reduce paperwork?
It's going to reduce red tape. In fact, the states get to do more bull crap because they're not going to have to deal with the Fed anymore.
But
getting the Fed out of the state is incredible.
But this isn't doing that. No, the federal government isn't getting rid of all Medicaid. They're not stopping everything, right? Medicaid is a state-run program, but it's done in coordination with the federal government. The federal government
is going to be lessened. Less coordination means less paperwork. That's not delusional.
It's going to require more coordination. It's going to require more checks.
It's going to be giving the state the power to decide for itself how that money is dealt with. That's it. That's not more paperwork in the terms of like some type of imaginary fountain of paperwork. No, it's going to be people deciding, should we continue these benefits when we don't have the staffing, but we've been increasing the budget every single electoral year because we just want to keep on getting more money from people we don't even know and we'll never see, and giving it here and funneling it into our overpopulated place where the census makes no sense. The votes make no sense compared to the census.
Are you trolling me? Come on, they're adding red tape, and you're saying it's going to decrease red tape. They're adding requirements.
I'm saying they're removing red. No.
How are they removing red tape? In what way are they removing red tapes? I'm lost. I don't understand what you mean by that.
Sorry.
How are they removing red tape?
First of all, when you don't have to have the same level of law and regulation over your programs in your state, that's a whole office. That's a bunch of people who just got fired. Less. That's less.
That's not happening. That's
less.
That's not.
That is what that's what those tax cuts are for. People think no. People are thinking that the tax cuts are, grandma's gonna lose her Social Security check. No. Grandma's federal Social Security office is going to be dwindled down to like 4 people so that the state can accurately and better help her the way they should be.
The state. So That's what's happening. Isn't the federal government saying we're no longer going to be involved in Medicaid? What the federal government is saying is, listen, we need to impose these new requirements before you get your Medicaid payments released to you. That's going to require more coordination, more forms, more confusion. And they're not going to just like fire Medicaid workers in the states. Like the states are going to continue to provide Medicaid. It's just going to be much more difficult to find out if you're eligible. That's going to increase red tape. Come on, you know that.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to be eligible for welfare.
Whether it's hard or first of all, this is Medicaid, right? So
you're making it sound like we're going to force crippled people to do a marathon. We're not. No one's going to force crippled people to do a marathon. Like, what are you talking about? Grandma's not going to have to do any more paperwork than usual.
You're going to
force. In fact, she's going to be able to have her appointment sooner.
What?
Okay, so she's going to have her appointment sooner because all the people in line in front of her who are taking it. Thank you. That's oh my gosh.
No, but that's not actually going to happen. So you're basically saying that wait times are going to be lower for people because all the other people are not going to be covered.
Not just not going to be covered. The people who are not supposed to be there are going to have to go. They're going to have to leave.
A lot of those people are going to be
eligible people.
A lot of people are going to be eligible people.
No, they're not. You're delusional. You're gaslighting me. You're just making it. You're like making up a really scary thing and trying to make me scared of it. I've literally been to these offices. I know who these people are. I know these people who let people with no papers, no social security, no job, no effort slide through. And there's been scandals all across this country. There's been scandals in like every major blue city about people allowing people to citizens. Yeah. And I don't agree with this. Allowing citizens and non-citizens to skip the line in front of people who actually deserve it, who broke their back literally working for years. What are you laughing at? Are you reading the comments?
You better not be. No, I'm not reading the comments. So what I'm laughing at is I think that we are having trouble agreeing with things that, in my opinion, aren't even contestable, right? Like it's not even contested that this is going to massively add to the deficit. That's one thing, right?
I don't know how you're I don't get how you're an absolutist right now in this moment, and then just like I don't know how long has it been? Like 20 minutes ago, you were like, yeah, Donald Trump. He's got great hair.
I was not. So I praised a couple of things of Trump to show you that I'm not just this like, inflexible person. And because you kind of like made that insinuation, but like we're disagreeing about things that aren't even contestable, right? So see people like Thomas Massey, when he says this is going to add a massive amount to our deficit, he's not lying when he says that. Rand Paul isn't lying when he says that. When we talk about the increase in terms of the bureaucratic stuff that, the checks that are going to be in place, that's just like obviously true. And because you're imposing a work requirement, and to make sure that you fulfill a requirement necessitates someone to check whether you fulfill a work requirement.
That check is done by the IRS and it's been done. And that's the only coordination that the states really need. That's it. Are you a person? Have you ever worked before? Did you break your back while working? Okay, that's it. Like they don't need that much of a check, and they don't need the Fed all up in there. And this actually does not correlate to the deficit. People, no. How does that doesn't make, you're delusional. How does that make sense?
I'm picking up different examples.
Cutting wastefully spent money that's literally kind of like in its weird schemes, all these schemes in all these big blue cities, just people slipping through the cracks who don't even deserve it. How is that not going to, like, that ending? If we end that, how is that not going to benefit the country? It's not even directly correlated with the deficit, but how would that not be beneficial? The deficit on its own is something completely more substantial, completely more exorbitant.
Which is not helping, right? This is not helping the deficit.
But what do you propose? That has nothing to do with it.
I propose
it has nothing to do with it.
I propose not passing these massive tax cuts that are going to disproportionately benefit rich people. That's something I think
You just don't want to do anything, do you?
No,
you just want to be
I
like
do
those
wanna,
people
no, I
on
do
the
want to
bottom
do
of the
stuff.
bottle.
No, I do want to do stuff, but what I don't want to do is pass these massive tax cuts that are going to disproportionately help the rich, and I don't want to pay for them by cutting benefits and increasing red tape. But we can't even agree. The thing is, we can't even agree that this is massively expanding the deficit when like that's not even contestable, and we can't even agree that this is going to increase red tape, even though that's not even contestable. You're adding a check, and the IRS isn't going to be checking compliance with the work requirement on Medicaid. They're not. That's not their job. They don't do that.
Are you serious right now?
I am serious right now. The IRS is not going to check compliance with the work requirements. The IRS's jobs are like taxes.
Taxes on what?
On
Income.
on
income.
Not just on income.
Revenue.
On inheritance, on capital
Profit.
gains. Okay. What was it? Do you think that that's the same as checking whether or not you're currently employed?
I got it. Okay. I got it. Okay.
But do you think that the IRS's job involves making sure that you're compliant for the work requirements under Medicaid that are going to be proposed? That's not the same thing.
I think
and also we are now. I am reading the comment. Also, we're cutting the IRS agents, and so obviously
we are.
Yeah,
we can do that too.
So obviously that's going to increase bureaucratic wait times. It's gonna make things more inefficient, right?
No. Pisco, my little Pisco. Haven't you heard of technology?
I've heard of technology.
They don't actually need the people to get the number. They just need the people to press the button to get the number.
Are you memeing? I can't tell if you're memeing.
I'm not memeing. I swear I'm not. I'm being so fucking for real.
So in review, you think this is going to decrease red tape, right? I'm correct about that?
Yes.
You don't think it's going to increase the deficit massively?
When you said this, wait, let's go back. This being
the bill that we're talking about, the big beautiful bill,
or this part of the bill, the bill or
the
this
law
part of the
overall.
Bill? The bill overall, it's literally written in there that they're gonna do it. So that'd be fucking crazy to say that they're not going to. I never said that.
Oh, okay. So you agree it's going to massively increase the deficit?
They said that it would. They said that they were going to increase the debt.
Well,
ceiling.
Trump said he was going to balance the budget. So he lied,
right? This is balanced.
How is this balanced? Wait, what does it mean to balance the budget? Can I ask you that? What does it mean? What do you think you mean when you say balance the budget?
Let's talk about budgeting. Let's talk about
what do you
budgeting,
mean by, can you just tell me what you mean by balancing the budget?
I'm not memeing. I'm so not memeing right now. I'm being so for real right now. And like, I'm really also like, laughter is the only way out of this. Okay. So look, let's just have a metaphorical household, right? Okay. And we're gonna balance the budget in this metaphorical household. Okay. You have kids in the house. It's two parents and some kids, whatever. You just imagine whatever. If you're spending, say $500 a week on food just to feed people, right? Just to feed everybody in the house, okay? Wouldn't it balance you, right, to go and grow your own food? Like, wouldn't that be balance on the back end?
You're not helping that this is not a troll. So
this is not a troll.
So when you say balance the budget, you mean bring yourself into some kind of cosmic or metaphysical balance?
I'm sorry. You know what? I'll be real with you right now. Marianne Williamson is onto something. I don't know if your audience knows who that is, but yes, I will bring her into this conversation right now because you said that. Yes, you should be balanced metaphysically, but also fiscally, financially for your unit. Okay. And if you're going to try to take money away, okay, from something, guess what? You're going to in turn force people to produce for themselves. That's the point of growing your own stuff. I'm not just being some holistic, I'm not being crunchy right now.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not.
When Trump
I'm
says
really
he's going to
not.
balance the budget, do you think what he means is what you're talking about, where it's like we're going to balance ourselves and we're going to like find inner peace?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I'll take it all the way to whatever you just said. Because whatever that means to you, whatever balance and inner peace that is for your unit and your sake, I hope that it is something that pushes you to produce for yourself instead of depending on the Fed. Yes. And that to me, okay, is what makes conservatives extremely different from liberals, because for some reason it makes sense to you to continue to enable these people who don't deserve it. And that's the main people I'm mad at. I'm not mad at grandma or grandpa who broke his back work for this country or our veterans. Okay. I'm sorry if that pisses some people off, but dead ass, why would you sit here and say, I'd rather just have more processed food, or I'd rather just make sure that little Susie and little Johnny have to depend more on the disgusting and vile food that is given at the grocery store in the food desert that they live in. Like, what are we actually arguing about?
I don't know,
This will
because I thought we
literally
were talking
force
about balancing the
community.
budget.
This will balance the budget in the localities. I never said it was
How?
not going to increase the debt ceiling. Has nothing to do with the states. I'm sorry.
Okay, but they're
It has
passing costs on to the states explicitly. They're passing on food stamp costs to the states. How is that going to help the states either
Because the
achieve
states
inner
already
balance
have.
or?
Do you really think? Okay, well, you really think it's a coincidence that these state budgets increase every year? They're just magically increasing.
I don't think
They're
they're
just
magic.
they just
I don't think they're
You
magically
just think that
increasing.
that's just. When do they go down? When do
When
they
do-
go down? It's going to force these states to budget. All right. You take away something that they're using as a crutch. Okay. Whether it's to line their pockets or whether it's to give away money to people who don't deserve it or run schemes, whatever that may be, this will shorten the crutch, at least by
It
a
will
lot.
increase the burden on states. The states already have usually.
That's their job. That's their job to take care of their people. That's their job. They will figure it out because they know how to increase the budget. They can figure out how to decrease it. Maybe they should stop giving council members raises for their increases on their projects, for their stupid projects every year.
Okay.
Giving developments to their buddies. These are little.
So you like Marianne Williamson? I don't mean this to be a jerk. I don't know if I should.
She's
ask,
right. Like she's not perfect, but she got something going for her with the spiritual and holistic side of healing this nation. Absolutely.
Can I ask you, if Trump declared himself a king, would you support that?
He would never do that.
But if he did, would you be okay with it?
How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast?
I would be pretty upset. So can I ask you, would you be that upset if Trump declared himself a king?
If he declared himself a king, I wouldn't support it, but I wouldn't be mad.
Okay.
I wouldn't really care. Because if he's a king, then he would lose power almost immediately. Americans aren't the kind. Look at you. The Americans aren't. We're not the kind of people that sit up here and just let somebody run up and say they're on top of us. They're the king. That's not gonna happen. You think your little stands who are being racist right now
Are they being racist?
gonna just let him?
How are they being racist?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Oh.
But you think those little stands down there, they're just gonna let somebody come into power without any serious objections?
Well,
No.
I
So
think
I'm not worried. I'm not worried. If he declared himself king, I wouldn't be worried. I'd be a fool to be worried.
What would it take for you to lose the support, for you to not support Trump anymore? What would he have to do?
He would have to not release the Epstein files. Yeah, I'd be pissed. If a couple years go by and he didn't do that, I'd be pissed. I'll be pissed. He's done. Anybody he endorses, I'm done. Don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna leave the Republican Party, but yeah, I'm done. I'm done with that crap, the hype.
So why did they like promise to do it on day one? Why did Pam Bondi do this whole like, we're gonna release everything, and then they had all these like jokesters with their binders, and Pam Bondi promised it was like, this is the thing, this is it, and it's just stuff we already knew
What's
about.
funny? You're asking me why, like I work there, but like I was gonna be like, I don't know, I don't work there, but I actually used to work in the complex, in the Capitol complex, and
did?
the reason why,
What did you
yeah,
work
I
there?
worked in the set. Sorry,
Sorry, what did you do there? Sorry, there was a delay.
what did I do there?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was a working girl. Okay, I served
okay.
lunch.
Yeah.
I served lunch and dinner. I probably shouldn't even say this. I served lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, and dinner parties in the Senate and Congress and the Supreme Court and White House for quite some time.
Very cool.
It's a very cool job, pays very well, and you don't have to be very smart to do it. So, you know, I don't know why the people on the people can't figure it out. Like, you can be disabled and do that job. They will let you in the building. And you don't have to support Trump, okay? Like, you can support whoever you want.
Do you have a problem with Trump being like so close to Epstein?
Do I have a Yes, of course I do. However, I do recognize that some of your faves, celebrities, right? Do you even like a celebrity? They're all related to some heinous crap, and it sucks. How many of our faves are too close to Kevin Spacey or Diddy? It's disgusting. It's scary and frightening and disgusting, and I don't want to know.
You don't want to know?
That's just where I'm at.
I mean,
not for my favorites. And Trump's not my favorite. He's not my favorite.
Who's your favorite?
No. My favorite celebrity?
Do you consider Trump a celebrity or politician or both?
Politician?
Yeah. So who's your favorite politician?
Ooh, good question. I would say, and hear me out. Oh man, see, this is complicated, right? And it's not because he's black.
I don't know who it is, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not because he's black. I'm gonna go with Wes Moore because and he's fucking it up.
What?
He's not doing too great. He's not doing too great. But I know. But the reason why is because I think he's playing the long game. And maybe that's the delusion. I think he's playing the long con. He came up in he was an intern for Condoleezza Rice. Okay? Let's start there. I don't think he is who he says he is.
What do you mean you don't think he is who he says he is?
I don't think he's the Democrat he says he is. I think he spends like a Democrat, but he's just trying to make sure everybody gets paid so that he can continue to get to the top.
Okay.
And a lot of Republicans are doing that in different.
What has he done? So what has he done that you like?
Oh, he is so good at putting out civil what's the word? Civil riots and civil disobedience. He's cleaned up Baltimore so quickly and so swiftly. And he's also like really, really good at listening to what his people want. And yeah, like there's some things that he's not going to get right. And there's nobody perfect. I don't know. After him, who do I like?
So would you vote for Governor Moore over Trump?
No.
But you
just
said Governor Moore was your favorite politician. I asked you who's your favorite. You
I
said
wouldn't
Trump's not
vote
your
for
favorite.
him over. I wouldn't vote for him over Trump because I'm registered Republican for one. If he switched parties, I'm not gonna switch parties to the party of.
You can vote for someone who's not your party.
No, you can't.
You're mean.
You vote. You can't. You can't. You are registered under whatever you are, and that registration is what gives the delegates power. You don't even pick. You can vote for whoever you want in the popular contest. But what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the general election.
Yeah, and the delegates pick.
I'm not talking about the primaries. I'm talking about general election. Trump versus Governor Moore. Who do you vote for? Or do you think
the electoral delegates pick? They get to pick.
No, but do you think that you have to vote for Republican just because you're a registered Republican in the general election?
No, I think that I'm going to stick to my party
Okay.
no matter what. And if he decides to come on over, yeah, I got you. I'm not going to switch parties.
You don't have to switch a party. You can just vote for him over Trump.
I don't know. Maybe they were running scams at my where they're voting, where I went to go vote.
Did they say that you had to vote for Republican?
Yeah, they force you to. Like the ballot is. Yeah, they so what they do is, and at least look, there's a lot living near the seat of power. I think there's a lot of weird, shady stuff going on. Okay. What they do is however you voted in the primaries, they force you to vote that way for the general election.
They
Yeah,
don't.
they do. Oh my God, they do. You should come. You should move over. I don't know where you live, but you should move to Maryland. You should just come experience it for like 2 months. Just come spend a
Do you
summer.
think they force you to vote for whoever party you
No,
voted
like
for
the
in the
ballot-
primary?
Not okay. Obviously, you can go right then and there and be like, "Oh, I want to switch my party so I can vote somewhere else." But when you
No.
get up there, no,
You
they
can
do.
vote for whoever you want.
No, I'm telling you that they're doing something wrong.
Who's doing something wrong? You're doing something wrong, or the people who told you this, or the people who wrote the ballots?
The people who run the ballots, of course. I don't trust them.
Do you think that you have an obligation to vote for the Republican in the general election if you're registered as a Republican in Maryland?
I think I have an obligation to vote in my best interest, and I find Republican values are in my best interest.
But you have a legal. You don't feel that you have a legal obligation to vote for the Republican?
No.
Okay,
No,
so-
when they try that stuff with me, I just don't vote because they do try that. It's happened before where I was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna vote. Like I'm not. You're forcing me to like be something that I'm not, and I think I had to mail it in at that point. Oh my God, it was so stupid. I think that was like my second time voting.
Do you
I'm a young
okay?
girl.
Since you
I'm
don't have a
young,
legal
right?
obligation to vote, why wouldn't you vote for your favorite politician, Wes Moore, over not your favorite politician, Donald Trump, if the choice were between the two? Since you wouldn't have to change your registered political party. You could still be a Republican and vote for Wes Moore over Donald Trump.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, you can't do that. Wherever I be living at, you can't do that. But I hear what you're saying. Why wouldn't I pick the black guy again
That's
over
not what I'm implying. No,
Johnny boy?
No. You said that your preference would. You
You're-
think, I'm not saying that because of race. I'm saying it because you said that you prefer Wes Moore over Trump.
I didn't say I prefer. I never said that.
Okay,
I said
so
that
then
he is my favorite politician right now.
that over Trump, right? So Trump is not your favorite, and Wes
No,
Moore
I-
is your favorite.
I wasn't comparing the two in that question though.
I'm asking you to compare. Who do you like more right now, Trump or Wes Moore?
Oh, Trump.
So is Trump your favorite politician right now?
No.
Is Trump the politician you like the most right now?
No.
There's a contradiction somewhere.
There's a contradiction in what you're asking. You're asking convoluted questions, and I know you like to do that shit. But look, I'm gonna tell you how you asked me the question initially. You asked me, okay, who's my favorite politician?
Yeah.
Okay. I told you who he was, and I told you why. Okay. Then you compared him to Trump, who I never said was my favorite. Like you're saying, I have to a dichotomy.
I know, but
you
when I
inserted
say
a
favorite-
dichotomy
when
when
I
there
say
was no
favorite-
dichotomy.
When I say favorite, what I'm saying is among all the politicians, comparatively, it's a comparative
Comparatively,
question.
and then you insert a dichotomy.
Well, if someone's your favorite,
And
that means someone else isn't your favorite. It's right. Unless
Someone
they're
else.
equal.
There's plenty of people who aren't my favorites.
You said Trump
Okay,
wasn't
I have
your
a favorite. I have a favorite sibling. That doesn't mean that there's only two to pick from.
I agree. Okay, but like Trump, if Trump's your favorite,
And
you said he's not your favorite.
I'm still gonna pick the one who's most responsible, whose behaviors or beliefs align with my own or are in my best interest.
Who's the politician
Whether or not-
whose behavior is most aligned with you and is in your interest?
Wes Moore does not necessarily do things that are in my best interest, and he's done that multiple times. As much as I think he is a charismatic angel who's not who he says he is, his behaviors show me that I could not trust him to be my leader. As much as I like him,
Okay.
liking somebody and then See, that's the problem with the other side. I'll be real. Liberals, y'all feel like you have to you're absolutist. Okay? Don't be an absolutist. This is literally like you are free with your genders, and then absolute, like you have to like the person who is acting in your best interest. A lot of y'all don't even like Jesus, and he's acting in your best interest. Like, I don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, but you don't have to go against them either. All right.
Yeah. Well,
So just saying. Just saying.
Two things.
Who's the liberal now? Who's the liberal
Yeah,
now?
well, yeah, but you say that I'm absolutist, but and I'm responding to a comment in the chat. I was able to identify something I liked about Trump. You're the absolutist. You were unable to think about anything that Biden did that you like. And I guess I'm wondering.
I literally don't spend any time thinking about Joe Biden. Oh my God. Now you're like forcing me to sit here and think about the things he's done that I liked.
I'll let you think about that. Is there any politician? So if Trump ran for a third term, would you vote for him?
He can't run for a third term.
If he did, and if he said, I don't care, and if he were on the ballot?
No, it'd be a waste of my vote because he can't do that.
So you wouldn't vote for him if he tried to run for a third term?
It wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
He wouldn't win. It'd be a waste of my vote.
Well, that's good at least. I'm glad that we can agree on that.
What's up with these trick questions?
They're not trick questions. I'm trying to gauge.
You just
like I'm trying to gauge. Like, all right, you want to ask me some questions? I've asked you a lot of questions. Why don't you ask me some questions if you want, and then we'll close it off.
No, yeah. Okay, so. Oh my God, I can't. The first thing that came to mind. Actually, I just want to get to know you. Can I just take this time to get to know you some?
Sure.
Are you a citizen?
Yes.
How long have you been a citizen?
All my life. I was born a citizen.
Okay. All right. So, why is it that you refuse to acknowledge to your audience that it might be okay if Trump is acting in their best interest to vote for him? Like, can he not live? Can you let him live? Why are we encouraging his death?
I'm not encouraging for him to die. I'm against that. I'm against people trying to kill Trump. In fact, as soon as I heard that Trump was under threat of assassination, I tweeted out condemning it. I condemn the assassination attempts. I condemn people using violence to try to make political change. And so, yeah, I'm totally against that. No one here. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some people who thought it would be chill if he died, or who think that it would be cool, but I am not one of them, and I'm against that. And yesterday, in fact, yesterday or the day before, I was arguing with someone specifically who said that it's time to enact violence, and I was saying that he shouldn't, and that it's stupid, and it's both immoral and counterproductive. Do you have any more questions for me?
I do. So, what are your thoughts right now on the diagnosis, the cancer diagnosis? Do you think that, follow-up question, do you think that it's more than the cancer they say it is, that it could be something with regards to Joe Biden, for those of you who are not keeping up? With regards to Joe Biden, do you think that it could be more than cancer? It could be something more faculty related?
I think it's both independently. I don't think when you say more, like the diagnosis he has is really, really bad. It's like terminal cancer. And so it's really
do you
bad.
think that, but your thoughts on that? Do you think that is bull crap, that it was just a bunch of delayed admission of what his condition has already been?
I don't think that it's related. I don't think that his prostate cancer is related to his cognitive decline. I mean, they're related in the sense that he's older, and they're possibly related if they were trying to diminish or cover up, or they lied about the extent of his.
So it's possible.
Okay. It's possible they're related, but there's no evidence that they're related, other than his age.
Well, to that point, I was going to ask a different question, but I'm going back to the first
Yeah.
question that came in my head. What are your thoughts on the Hunter Biden pardons?
I think they're corrupt.
Think so?
Yeah, it's because I'm not a hack and I can identify and criticize the politicians that I support when they do something corrupt and wrong. But of course, what do you so I guess I'll ask you, what do you think about Trump, like I'll ask this one first. Accepting a $400 million Qatari airplane in like the most corrupt, obvious scheme of all time?
I hope he puts the Harlem Globetrotters on it, and the Harlem Globetrotters fly around the world entertaining children across the world.
You don't care about corruption. I mean, that is blatant corruption.
I did not say that. I said that I hope he uses it for good and not evil.
Okay, but he shouldn't accept it at all, right? For himself?
You think it's going to be for himself?
Yeah.
He's probably going to put a bunch of like high school state champions on it. Like, come on.
What makes
and
you
like
think
let
that?
let them go to Disney World or something.
Okay, what business, why does he get to do that? Why does he get to decide what happens to this plane that he just accepts from a foreign government?
Do I think he should have accepted it? No. Heck no.
Okay.
There's probably all sorts of spy material all up in there. Do I think he's gonna accept it though, and as a graceful measure of like diplomacies to some regard, to some degree, because it was bizarre. Did you see that? Like those girls, he was walking down the thing, and those girls were flipping their hair around.
How is this diplomacy? They asked the Qataris for a bribe, and they gave him one.
When did he ask? I'm sorry. When was that?
The reporting is that the administration, the reporting is the administration early on in the term, like I think maybe February or March or something, approached the Qataris to be like, hey, you want to give us a plane?
What are you talking about? Qatari Airways is a failing, like aero thing. What are you talking about? They're literally suffering under the thumb of the Saudis, and you're talking about they could afford that? They have to get a loan for that plane to be made. Bribe who?
Are you reading the comments now?
I think it's for show. The comments on where?
So it's going to cost the American people hundreds of millions of dollars to retrofit the plane. And yeah, hang on. I'm trying to get the news for you. 1 second. Trump tasks Middle East. This is CNN. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff with finding a list of viable planes. Qatar was one of the clients, and Pentagon launched discussions with Qatar after learning the White House supported the idea. That's CNN. Okay. Any final questions for me?
I think it's semantics. I want to know, why is it that you so deeply despise the Trump administration? And I want you to be honest, because and don't make it some semantics about the legislation and how his term and how his personality. What is wrong with him that you don't like?
He's the most corrupt president we've had in the last 100+ years. He is doing horrible things to our country. He hates our country. He hates Americans. He's trying to hurt you and your family. He's trying to, squander the riches of this country. He's enriching himself with using his official power, with Trump coin, with this plane, with these corrupt deals with some, capitalist folks. He's trying to get the benefits to go to the richest people, his friends. He's using the Department of Justice as his personal enforcement wing. He's silencing people who disagree with the administration on Israel. And so he's like deporting people on the basis of free speech. He's, attacking our like universities because they're not pro-Israel enough, and he's trying to remove their endowments for ideological reasons. If any of this was happening with a Democratic president, you'd be screaming from the hills cancel culture, you'd be screaming censorship, you'd be screaming all this stuff, and it's just massive corruption all the way down. He's tanking our economy with these tariffs. He's ruining our credit with our friends and family, with our friends' countries, right? So like Canada, Australia, Europe, these countries that are allied with us. So we're losing credit there. He's making our debt
This
more
has
expensive.
literally been
This is
ongoing. This is a steamroll snowball that each president for the last 20 years has been handing down.
This is
And
different.
we talked before. The last time we talked, I wanted to get into it with you about this immigration because it has been going on in my ear for a long time.
What has been going on?
Maryland has suffered. No, seriously. So I don't know if you're familiar, some old history, some old timey history. This might be before everyone on Twitch's time, because I don't think anybody on Twitch is older than you right now. So literally,
are you serious? I'm in my 20s still. How old do you think I am?
I don't know.
How old are you?
I'm also in my 20s. I don't know.
All right, cool.
You're saying that like you got 5 minutes left.
I'm in my late 20s. I'll put it there. I'm in my late 20s.
No. Okay, on a serious note. Okay, so Bill Clinton, all right, during that time of his whatever shit show that was with the scandal and everything else, on the back end, while that's happening, while he's getting his, self-pleasured, he's over there destabilizing countries around Panama and helping to further our control of Panama.
You think I'm a fan of Bill Clinton?
You're a fan of Bill Clinton?
I'm asking, do you think I'm a fan of Bill Clinton?
Honestly, I don't even know. Did I ask what are your politics? I'm
definitely left
you're
of
a
center,
liberal?
I think. Yeah, I think I'm a liberal. But I'm not a supporter of Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton was not a good president.
He was more fiscally responsible than any president we've ever had in my lifetime.
That's true, because Trump has been the most fiscally irresponsible in our lifetime.
Oh,
him and Bush.
Him and Obama. Him and Obama take it. Yeah, both of them.
Do you like Obama?
Bush had his reasons. We had a lot going on. We had a lot going on. Never forget.
Are you a Bush fan?
I like his personality. I like his personality.
And you're a Tim Pool fan. Tim Pool fucking hates Bush, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You like we have the weirdest eclectic likes of people. Like, you like Bush, you like Westmore, and you like Trump. I'm just like, what's the through line between Bush, Westmore, and Trump? They're very different.
When I find the perfect libertarian, I will be happy.
Trump is not a libertarian. Holy fuck!
No, I didn't say any of them were. I'm saying you're asking for a through line. That's what's straight through it, right? A non-anarchist
Bush is not a libertarian. Bush and Westmore is not a libertarian.
Yeah, but a libertarian, it will find a reason to spend the money if they need to on war. Look, if they need to, they will find it. Be that as it may, my point originally was that,
immigration. You were talking
during that time, he actually was doing some sneaky stuff. He was having tons and tons of flights from El Salvador and San Salvador come directly to BWI and DCA and Reagan. Those are airports. For those of you who don't know what those are airports in the DMV region, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia region. And these people were dropped off without a trace, dropped on these 3 areas, 2 states, 1 major city. And we didn't know what we were going to do. But you know what they did? They took the money. They took the money that they were giving back to our communities, to our schools. All that money went into housing, feeding, giving.
So you're blaming the immigrants for all these problems?
Excuse me?
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm addressing that the spending has been out of control for a long time. And I wanted to talk to you about this before. Mm-hmm. Okay? Where you think that that people are just all of a sudden like angry and blaming immigrants for everything. No. This has been ongoing for years. People have been pushed to a boiling point. Why do you think everything is so gosh darn violent? It was never this violent when I was a kid. And protesting is a normal part of a culture.
Crime rate's coming down. Crime rate's coming down.
But that's because they're not arresting anyone at these liberal protests.
Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that.
I will say it again. They're not arresting anyone who needs to be arrested at these liberal protests.
And that's why the crime rate's coming down is because they're not
and I get you. I
people.
get scared. I'm scared too when a bunch of Nazis come around with tiki torches. I'm scared too. Shoot, that happened across the pond from me. That could happen right across the Shenandoah.
Do you agree with the pardoning of Jan Sixers?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I know J6ers. I was there. I wasn't in the building. I was there. I was in the city. I was just coming to see the inauguration.
Did you have your MAGA gear on?
Heck no. I had a dress on. I had this really cute dress, and I was down in Georgetown, right? And I was on my way because where the mall is was shut down. None of the businesses were open, so the only Starbucks I could go to was in Georgetown. So I was at Starbucks. I was trying to find something to eat, something to drink, and so that I could have enough energy because I'd already been there all day, right? So then I went back. I tried to go back into the mall area, and we couldn't get in. And then I heard like sirens, all sorts of stuff. I heard screaming. I heard the chanting. I also heard for myself, I heard him say, "Go home."
Yeah.
Leave this place peacefully and go home. And I was like, did I go home?
Do you think it was a peaceful protest?
Oh God. I think honestly, no. I'll be honest, no, it was not peaceful, but I think it was reactive. Certainly reactive. And it was certainly their right to have those forms of expression at the time, but not necessarily to harm each other and harm our capital. Do I think they broke in? No. That's a public building and anyone can go in there. No.
What are you fucking talking about? Of course they broke in, right?
It's a public building, dude. It's a public building.
Is it possible to break into a public building? Yes or no? Is it possible to break into a public building? Yes or no?
No.
No, it's not possible.
Is it possible to trespass on public land?
So I can't believe you just said
it's
impossible to break into
no
a
one's
public
illegal
building.
on stolen land. Where are you guys at in the comments? No one's illegal on stolen land. Where are y'all at in the comments right now?
You have to defend your position.
Where are you at right now?
You have to defend your position. You just said something fucking stupid, which was you can't break into a public building. Like, can you break into the White House? You can't break into the CIA. You can't break into the FBI.
No. You're just drawing from grasping. I lived in that area. Okay, it's public. It's a public building and it's open during operating hours. Those people try to get in.
What if it's not open that day? What if it's not open? Can you break in?
If it's not open, they have to put that notice on the website because people come. People come from across.
Specific question. If it's not open,
not breaking
can you break in?
It's not breaking in. It's not breaking in.
If a public open,
it's not breaking in.
If a public building is not
open.
Do
I agree? No. Stop. I don't agree with them shitting, pissing, and stealing. I don't agree with them shitting, pissing, and stealing. All right.
You said they didn't break in.
I'm not avoiding it.
You said they didn't
break in.
But
I don't think that. No. Not during business hours when it's supposed to be open and it's a public building.
What if they closed it? What if it was closed? It was closed, right? You agree it was closed? Was it closed or not?
Do I agree that it was closed? No, it was not closed. It was not
closed. So even though it was a restricted area, even though it was not open to the public because they announced it wasn't open to the public, you think it was not closed?
Do you want the executive branch to have power or not? They can't just close a public building. When there's people across the country coming, they're flying in. People are coming across the world and country to come see this inauguration, to come to this city, and you're going to close a public building without warning or notice? You cannot do that. No, they cannot do that.
You can't.
After a certain time of day, they shouldn't have been up in there. Okay, those poor, rich politicians and their interns, those poor, scared people. Yes. Okay, fine. Be scared. Shitting and pissing all over their desks, stealing hard drives.
Congress can't close. Congress can't decide just randomly. There's like, listen, we don't want to open this to the general public. No more public.
Are you serious? They cannot. They literally have never done that.
Why not? No, why can't
I've been there. I worked there. They literally cannot do that.
As a matter of grace. Wait, why couldn't they if they wanted to?
They cannot do that. It's against the law.
What law?
It's literally against the law. The law is that it's the people's right to assembly, and it's also the freedom of speech. And they have to be able, and that means that they have to be able to go in and receive information if they want to. They cannot just do things behind closed doors as much as they tried to do. So beyond the inauguration in J6, that building should not be closed outside of business hours without notice to the public.
Okay.
Because every
All
single
right.
day, thousands and thousands of people are descending on DC.
What about the White House?
Just
So
to peruse
should I be able to
history.
go to? Should the White House be open at all times, no matter what?
The White House is open. You have to make a reservation.
No, but can the president close it all the time if he wants to?
No. I guess
If he
apparently
wanted
during
to?
COVID. I guess
Couldn't he
during
if he wanted
COVID they
to?
did something like that, but they still had people in there. They still had people, so no.
Okay, so
They
for
still
example,
conducted
so,
business.
So for example, there are ICE facilities, right, that are public. They need to be open to the public as well, right?
I'm sorry. Did you say that there's ICE facilities that are public?
Wait, yeah, they're public. You agree they're public, right? ICE facilities are public.
Are you saying that the federal money is paying for these facilities, or are you saying that the localities?
Yeah.
Because the localities are largely paying and funding these sites and permitting these sites.
So you think the states are funding these ICE facilities?
Have you been to Brownsville? Let's take a trip to Brownsville.
Why don't you answer the fucking question? Do you think the states are paying for ICE facilities?
I do think they are at large because they are the main ones who are paying the employees. They are largely taking in money from the income tax, and they are largely responsible for the facility itself. So yes, they are paying. They are paying.
The federal
Putting out
government's
more
paying.
money than they can afford.
The federal
Yeah.
government is paying for it. Come on, don't be stupid. You know this is
They
a federal.
are the feds got something to do with it.
Yeah. It's federal public facility, right? It's the ICE facility. It's public, right? Public.
Fine. You want to go inside an ICE facility so bad? Go. They'll let you in.
Exactly. You know where this is going. You know where it's going, and you know that the
No,
government
I
if it
think
wants to
no.
can close
I'm
down
not
public
saying
areas.
that we shouldn't go. I don't mind if they want to make ICE facilities
It's not
public.
about whether you
I just
mind.
think
It's about whether you think they have the power to close it off to the public, and the answer is, of course, they have the power.
it's
You
illegal.
don't think ICE?
They have that. They have that power, and it's still illegal.
How do
They
you
shouldn't
have
be allowed to
How
do
do you
that.
have an illegal power? I don't even understand what that means. It sounds like a contradiction. How can
I don't know.
having-
Ask Obama. Ask Obama. Ask him.
I can't ask Obama. I don't know Obama.
You don't. You don't.
All right. Any last questions for me? This has been a really fun conversation, but my audience is not. They've been a little triggered. You've triggered them successfully, so you get some points.
Whatever.
There. Any final questions for me?
Well,
Where can
no,
people
I
find
have
you?
no more questions. Oh my God. Find me on X. That's NDKTR and the number 8. That's indoctrinate for the Phoenicians out here.
I don't know what that means, Phoenicians. What's that reference to?
The alphabet.
I don't know what that means.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you after.
All right. Hey, thank you for joining the conversation.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
I
I
really
appreciate you
it.
not calling me a dipshit.
I didn't call you a dipshit. I called that other guy a dipshit, just to be clear. But
Thank you.
I think some of
appreciate
these. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Hey, thank you a lot for the conversation. Talk soon. All right.